is good, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the WeSportin podcast. And we see a new face. Drew, who the heck is that? Who is that guy next to us? I don't know who he is. You want to introduce him, maybe, or do you want me to introduce him?
He's a new member of the team.
Yeah, we added.
He's a new member of the team. Colin, you want to introduce yourself?
My name's Colin. I'm a Bears fan.
Bring some diversity to the group.
Yeah. Well, guys, just to shout it out real quick. Just shout it out real quick. We got two new members, actually. We got Johnny, who's a media guy. He's going to tend to stay more production, wants to promote, which is awesome. And we got Colin, who's a Bears fan. I know that's going to be awesome to have some Bears and Packer clashes in here. I don't have that problem, but that's
it's more like it's more like a bug in a windshield. I mean, what?
Day, I've already taken
30 seconds in and we're already starting the banter. Let's go. Starting off on a hot note.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today, Nico?
All right, so guys, today we're going to be talking about the Bears and what they're going to do. I know, we're from the local area of, outside of Chicago. Drew's out in Indianapolis, but he does actually live in the outside of Chicago. Colin actually lives in Illinois, so he actually has the Bears feelings. So let's get it started with the big question here today, guys. Quarterback, Chicago Bears. What are we doing there? Like, what's up with that? I mean, Colin, do you maybe want to start that up real quick?
If you ask me, I feel like they should maybe give Mitch maybe one more shot.
Really? Now, why do you think that?
Because I feel like how they started the season off decent with him playing. When Nick Foles came to the team, he just completely tanked the team.
I can maybe relate to that a little bit. I can see that. I know what you're talking about, though. Mitch Trubisky coming out having a 3-0 start, and then getting benched in the Atlanta game after being down by a lot, and then they put Foles in, and they just completely. I mean, they won some games, but if we look at it through the pan of the season, Trubisky had a better season statistically.
Yeah.
So you're saying give him one more year? Okay.
I mean, I feel like give him one more shot, and if it doesn't work next year, then well, we'll figure something out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Drew, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I can see where Colin's coming from just because Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy have basically staked their careers in Chicago on this Mitch Trubisky draft pick. I mean, you trade up a pick to get him. It's a project quarterback. You make the playoffs twice in the past 3 years with him. And now that Mitch Trubisky's an unrestricted free agent, you're faced with a dilemma. You just traded for Nick Foles for, I believe, a 4th-round pick last offseason. You used him, didn't quite work out that well. You had to go back to Trubisky. And the real question here is, do you give Trubisky another chance, or do you stick with Foles? Or there's another alternative. You can go in the free agency market and get a guy, or you can look through the draft, because the draft has a really quarterback heavy draft class. There's a ton of options, but the one thing, in my opinion, that stands in the way of the Bears making any significant moves at quarterback is money. It's money, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Being $10 million over the salary cap really hurts. And I know that this year it's more of a problem than ever, because you have teams like New Orleans that's $100 million over, and like my Green Bay Packers are $25 million over. But like for a team like Chicago that has major problems that they need to solve, like with Trubisky, and I'm sure we'll touch on this later, Allen Robinson becoming a free agent, I think they need to do some serious restructuring to some contracts and clear up some space, maybe trade some guys away before they can even think about addressing, the quarterback situation. But whether you do give Trubisky one more chance, I mean, as a Packers fan, give Trubisky all the chances you need. I mean, you can keep giving Trubisky those chances. But I'm okay with 8-8 for you guys. I'm okay with it. But no, I can see why you would give Trubisky another shot. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I know a lot of Bears Nation didn't want him back after the postseason loss, but just with the way he started the season and finished the season, I mean, they made it to the playoffs with Mitch Trubisky at quarterback. Nick Foles hurt them at quarterback, if anything. So I think just in that regard, I say maybe bring him back on a short one-term deal. But there are other options, though.
Yeah, that is true. And one thing I do want to touch on, though. So Bears have the 20th pick.
20th pick.
20th pick.
Yeah.
Now, at that pick, I've seen a lot of ideas with that pick. I've seen Mac Jones, which I don't believe will be there. But if he falls, take quarterback. If you go offensive tackle, there's Darrisaw. You go free safety because I know Deshaun Gibson's only there for a 1-year deal. So maybe go free safety.
Yeah, Deshaun Gibson's a free agent.
There's a lot of moves they could do with that, and I'm just gonna speak on honesty. I say if I'm Chicago now, I know me and Drew we have an episode on the draft that will be addressed later on, but you'll guys will see that later on when that.
We didn't get to Chicago's pick because we only did the top 10.
But I remember I did an episode I believe with Dylan, who's another member of our podcast group. He had the Bears, I believe, taking an offensive tackle, but personally, I see the Bears, I say trading away, because if Drew, like I said, explained with the money problems, you already are going to be now bringing in a first-round talent guy in the top 20. You're going to be already paying him 4 years, like $1 million a year almost, plus a signing bonus.
Keep in mind, if it's a quarterback, it's even more with a 5th-year option.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And now if you're Chicago, you don't have Mitchell Trubisky's money anymore because he's an unrestricted free agent. You still have Nick Foles under contract because he signed that contract with Jacksonville the year prior to that, which he then tore. I think he tore his ACL or broke his shoulder.
Yeah, he broke his collarbone.
Yeah, so
it was a really big thing that Jacksonville is paying a lot of that Foles contract because that would only put Chicago deeper into their salary cap problem than they already are. So I think that was a good thing.
Yeah. So honestly, if I'm Chicago, if I'm sticking with Trubisky, you sign him on a 1-year deal, which I think him and his agent are probably going to request more. But you give
him a club option or a player option.
Yeah, give him like a 1+1 year player option. The second year is an option on his contract where he could either stay or leave. I think if you go that, they go offensive tackle, get someone to help out because you have Cody Whitener, you have Nickel, and no, he's on the defense. You have Macy, you have all those guys, but I think bringing in a younger guy at offensive tackle is going to really, help out there, really just help Trubisky and honestly help David Montgomery too. Because
keep in mind, David Montgomery isn't the only running back on that roster. We
forgot about Tariq Cohen. I forgot.
Like literally,
Cohen.
It's like Tariq Cohen died when he tore his ACL. Everybody forgot about him, but he's still the lightning to David Montgomery's thunder.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have seen with a lot of teams is like, I'll agree with Nico. I think they should go offensive tackle in the draft just because this class has a lot of good offensive line talent and maybe use the later rounds to like get offensive line depth because that's always important. But a good offensive line, especially a good blindside tackle, solves a lot of problems because when you have a good blindside tackle and a good offensive line in general, it makes life easier for the quarterback. It makes life easier for the running backs. It opens up the offense more. And if you look at a team like the Cleveland Browns, sure, they have a lot of talent, but the reason they're able to make it work, like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, as talented as they are, they wouldn't be able to run anywhere if it wasn't for their all-pro offensive line.
They wouldn't be what they are if their offensive line.
It's simple as that.
Yeah.
And like when I look at the situation with my Packers, I'm just going to touch on this briefly. We have a first team all-pro that's a free agent that I want to get re-signed ASAP. So, but this isn't about my Packers, it's about the Bears. The point that I'm trying to make is I think a good offensive line can really solve a lot of problems for this Bears team.
Of course.
So I think it would be wise to spend a first-round pick on a blindside tackle.
Okay, that's very true. Now, the next topic we're going to move on to, I did actually speak to this about Colin. I did an episode with this about Dylan, and we talked about this man. But I'm going to talk about it with all three of you, or all two of you. Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
Where's this guy going to go? I mean, Chicago.
It's time for me to sit back and relax.
I can't see him with the Bears being in like $10 million in debt. I can't see him re-signing with Chicago.
Really? You don't see that?
I can't.
Well, Colin, if you had to list maybe like 2 or 3 destinations on where he could go, where would you want him to see him? I know we discussed yesterday Baltimore. That was one of our discussions.
I would really like to see him go to Baltimore and maybe Tennessee.
Tennessee.
I mean, I mean, you got AJ Brown,
Yeah.
who just had an amazing year.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
And then you pair him up with Allen Robinson, who's a Pro Bowl caliber receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two Pro Bowlers for Tannehill to throw to.
Yeah, that is true. And I mean, the Titans.
Interesting.
I mean, the Titans.
That's very interesting. I would not have thought of the Titans.
No, yeah, and I, you hear about Allen Robinson, and you always hear about, Baltimore. He's going to go to, somewhere that needs a wide receiver. But Tennessee, we can touch on that because that's actually very interesting. I've never heard him going to Tennessee. I think the reason why Tennessee's not really in the option of it is because their offensive, cap salary is a little extent with paying Derrick Henry. They have to pay. I don't know if they re-signed Henry, but they're paying.
If they haven't yet, they're going to have to because Derrick Henry's going to want top dollar. And
Mhm.
considering
They
that,
need to sign him.
Yeah, they do need to sign Derrick Henry back. I mean, they got Ryan.
Derrick Henry, he's their offensive identity, and the offense runs through him. So if I'm the Titans, I don't know if I go for a wide receiver because I think what they have complementary to Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown and Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith, who they should probably re-sign, or Ferkser if they can't re-sign Jonnu Smith.
Mhm.
I think what they have right now is a solid complementary, solid compliments to what Derrick Henry brings to the table. So I think Allen Robinson to Tennessee would be interesting, but personally where I see Allen Robinson going and where I think he would be the best fit, especially if they trade for Deshaun Watson, and we will touch on this in a later video, is the New York Jets. Because the New York Jets have money to spend, and if they trade for Deshaun Watson, I think Deshaun Watson's going to want an elite wide receiver around him or two. And so I think Allen Robinson would be a great fit for what the Jets and new head coach Robert Saleh, new offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur are trying to do. Because keep in mind, like they're coming from that, McVay, Shanahan style of offense. And, like they have a good quarterback and they have a wide receiver. And keep in mind, Allen Robinson has never played with a quarterback of a Deshaun Watson's caliber before. It's always been a Blake Bortles or a Mitchell Trubisky.
True.
No disrespect to Trubisky, but he's no Deshaun Watson, and I think
No,
that is
not even close.
very clear. So I think, especially if the Jets get a deal done for Watson, I think Robinson to the Jets would be very intriguing, and I feel like both parties would really like to have him there.
Drew, I want to ask you a quick question. I know, and I am only touching on the NBA just because I know how NBA is as well. In the NFL, is there such thing as a sign and trade?
No, not that I know of.
I've never heard of it happening. I was gonna say
not that I know of. Well, with free agents, once you hit the free agency market, you're no longer with the team.
Yeah, no, I know that, but I know that there's been a lot of players like NBA wise have done that, and I don't know if that transfer over to football. But if it doesn't, then oh well. Then
each sport, like I don't know the NBA that well, but the NFL and like the MLB, I can tell you about how that free agency system, like salary cap, how that all the financials work and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different system, like from league to league.
Yeah, very true. All right, so now we're going to request the next biggest question. So we've already touched on quarterback. We've already touched on Allen Robinson. We touched briefly on David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen, their situation. We talked about their money. Next thing I want to move on to is the defense. I want to move on to the defense. Now, I know you're wondering why you want to talk about the defense of the Bears. Well, there's a lot of problems money-wise with the defense with the Bears and a lot of future problems with the Bears. You have, I think, Roquan Smith, who's still on a rookie contract. You have Danny Trevathan, who's getting older and who's still on a little bit of a big contract, and he's getting a little older too. I think he's entering 30 or 31 this year.
Well, all right, I can break down.
Yeah, we'll have Drew break down defense, and me and Colin can step in, guys. If you guys,
okay. So the Bears' top 5 biggest contracts are all on the defense, and it's in this order: Khalil Mack, Kyle Fuller, Robert Quinn, Akeem Hicks, and Eddie Jackson, all making $11.5 million plus. Eddie Jackson's at $11.5 million. Akeem Hicks, $12 million for next year. Robert Quinn, $14.7 million for next year. Kyle Fuller, $20 million for next year. And Khalil Mack, $26.6 million. Now, Khalil Mack, worth every penny. He's a game changer. Teams game plan to stop him. And there are some times when you still can't. Like when the Bears traded for Khalil Mack from the Raiders, they gave a pretty hefty price tag. But for the 2018 season, how Khalil Mack was able to perform, it's most definitely been worth it. Now, now the contracts that concern me on the Bears defense are Kyle Fuller and Robert Quinn. Those are the two big ones that, like, those are the two big red flags. When, if I'm looking for guys to move, those are the two headliners. Because
I would just like to add real quick, Robert Quinn is on a 1-year deal.
he's still on contract for the team next year.
Oh, is he actually?
He's still under contract for the team next year.
I thought they signed him for 1 year. My bad. Keep going.
You're good. No, you're good. He's still under contract for 2021, making $14.7 million. Yeah, I'm seeing your face. $14.7 million.
All right, Colin, we're suiting up, dude. We're gonna go play for the Bears. You get free money. Drew, you're running back.
Anybody want to go play linebacker for the Bears? They'll pay you $12 million plus.
Jesus, man, and a signing bonus of $14 million too, just to be nice and generous.
I'll play linebacker for him.
I mean, I know Robert Quinn brings a lot to the table just in terms of like depth and being able to get to. So here's the thing. If you replaced Robert Quinn with a name that is now on the other side of the country that used to be in Chicago, if you replace Robert Quinn with Leonard Floyd and give him that contract, now that's worth every penny.
Yeah.
And I know with the way Leonard Floyd played in Los Angeles that
he balled out this year.
Yeah.
Over 10 sacks. Drew's happy that he's out of the division though.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't do anything in the divisional round, so. But
besides getting juked out by Aaron Rodgers.
Hey, a lot of funny memes. I enjoyed the memes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Robert Quinn getting paid $14.7 million for next year is a contract that I would be looking to move. Mm-hmm. And that's my next contract that I'll be looking to move on the Bears defense is actually Kyle Fuller. And I touched with this with Nico earlier. Like, Colin, I see you kind of going, all right, let me explain why.
I can kind of see where you're coming from for that.
Considering because Kyle Fuller is still a really, really good corner. He's still one of the better corners in the league. However, I believe he's the second or third highest paid cornerback in the league, making $20 million for next year. Yeah,
I didn't even know he was making that much, to be honest.
He's your second biggest contract other than Khalil Mack, who's making $26.6 million. So, I mean, Kyle Fuller by himself is taking up 10% of your cap.
Yeah.
So, I think if you can move him for a second, third round pick, I think I'd do that. I really do. And maybe going and drafting a cornerback in the second round.
Yeah, and to touch on what Drew's saying too, the Bears did an amazing job even in the draft last year without even a first-round pick. They drafted Jalen Johnson, who's been a stud this year.
Oh, absolutely. I think Jalen Johnson is ready to take over that role.
Yes, and what sucks though is that Chuck Pagano retires, and they bring in a guy within the Bears system to be defensive coordinator. And what sucks is because Pagano had this defensive mindset, just to be good and talented, and he really showed that on the Bears. He showed it in the 2018 season when they were made the playoffs. He showed it this year. What sucks is that with Chuck Pagano being retiring. Yeah. Do you guys notice maybe a difference in the Bears defensive mindset going into the season? Like, do you still see the Bears being elite with Chuck Pagano being retired?
Colin, do you want to touch on this or?
Honestly, that's going to sound surprising when I say it. I can't see him being this electric without Chuck Pagano.
Really?
And I'm just gonna say this because at the start of the season, the Bears defense was as good as I've ever seen it. When the season started coming to a close, they were terrible. Just flat out bad.
That is true. They did allow over 20 points in the last 4 games.
You know, I'll agree with that. They did falter late.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm being completely honest, like start to finish, I think the Bears 2018 season, that was their ceiling. Maybe winning another playoff game. Like maybe if you win the Philly game and maybe reach the NFC champion. With that core, I think that was their ceiling. However, for the future, I think you work through the draft and use the same blueprint. Like, because the blueprint was there for a championship.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Just the execution of that blueprint wasn't exactly all there. Because now you like, sure, you have good players, but you're either left with wrong guys on offense, star wide receivers leaving, some bloated contracts on defense. You know, some of the right pieces aren't there. You have quarterback problems. But the blueprint was a pretty solid blueprint. You know, I think they just need the right guys, especially a quarterback, to make it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I really think it comes down to it's the Bears, regardless, took a big hit. And me and Drew talked about this. Actually, it's all gonna tie in together. But when Cleveland was playing Pittsburgh, we both said, well, it's not that they lost players because of COVID. They lost players because of coaching. And we said that it's worse losing your head coach or any sort of coaching instead of your quarterback. And I think that's the Bears' biggest issue right now. Yeah, they got a new guy already signed back and everything, but that's not Chuck Pagano. It's not the guy that Bears fans are used to. And now we're gonna have to be coming in here and looking at this new guy who was picked up in the Bears system, and it has.
Well, Nico, you make a good point. Like he's internal. He's from the Bears system. Mm-hmm. So if you want to see a Chuck Pagano-esque defense, if you want to see something similar, I think hiring internally and promoting was a solid way to do that. Because, this new defensive coordinator is going to bring his own little tweaks and philosophies, but it'll be a lot more similar to what they saw previously than if they went and hired a former head coach that was outside of the organization that was looking for a job that has their own defensive scheme and their own philosophy that would just be completely different. Now, if you stay internal and you promote, then they're already built with those philosophies that the Bears have upheld for a while. So I think it was a good thing if you wanted familiarity with your defense.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing too. But if I were Chicago, I would have maybe thrown out some interviews to defensive coordinators with special skill sets. Like I think they should have brought it. If me personally, the perfect guy for them would have been Saleh. But I know Saleh really wanted a head coaching job instead of just a defensive coordinator job. Which I mean, look what he did to that 49ers defense. I mean, he made them elite. So if the Bears would have got him, that's great. He's on the Jets now, but hopefully this young guy that's coming in right now is going to be amazing. So the last thing we're going to touch on real quick. Records for next season for the Bears. What do you think the Bears are going to finish off next year? Drew, I'm going to start it out with you because you're a Packers fan, and I want you to start it out. What do you think the Chicago Bears record is going to be this next year?
I'm going to say what I think the record's going to be, but I'm also going to say their ceiling. Okay. I think their ceiling is 9-7. I think they're definitely going to take a hit because organizationally, I don't see them really putting it all together and improving from last year, maybe record wise, but I don't know. I don't see them making the playoffs, but realistically, I think they'll go 6-10 or 7-9 and be drafting around like 12, 13, 14, like that swing. I mean, which isn't bad. You have room to move up for 2022.
Yeah.
But I feel like this team is on a downward trend from last year.
Yeah.
Very true. All right, Mr. Colin, what do you give your Chicago Bears? If we want to go ceiling and then we want to just go reality.
Ceiling, I can maybe see them going like 9-7.
Yeah, that's understandable.
I have to kind of agree. I can see him maybe going like 6-10 this year.
That's understandable.
Wow, Packers and a Bears fan seeing eye to eye. Who knew? Has hell
Mine's
frozen over?
Mine's gonna be very, very brutally honest. Just by looking at the Bears, ceiling for them is 8-8. Reality 4-12. I see the Lions being a bigger scare than the Bears next year, and I can see the Vikings being a bigger scare next year than the Bears.
But what happens if that Matt Stafford trade goes through though?
Okay, then they draft Zach Wilson, or they draft a quarterback, developed him, go sign a veterans contract.
We're gonna okay. This is a Chicago Bears episode, and let's stay on track.
Mhm.
And that's a very, very bold take that you see the Lions and the Vikings being more of a threat next year than the Bears. I see the Vikings being more of a threat.
The Vikings can be a very.
I see the Minnesota being more of a threat than Chicago, but I still think Chicago will be better than Detroit. I feel like next year is going to be a very, very rough year for Detroit because you're changing quarterbacks for the first time since 2009, and you have a new head coach. So it's it's going to take a while. New quarterback, new head coach, new culture, new everything. It's not an overnight thing. And I think the Bears are going to place third in the NFC North.
Interesting.
I agree.
Well, with all good things has to come to an end. If you guys want to see another episode coming up soon, like I said, we have our trivia video coming up on this Friday. And next week, me and Drew have our Super Bowl predictions and our special Super Bowl episode 2. Colin, you'll see Colin on the next episode on the trivia video. We will have Colin again coming in. Me and Colin will be doing a little videos too, like how me and Dylan do it. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm glad that we brought Colin in. And we actually have a new Twitter account too. So that will be linked in the description below. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and yeah, peace.